within the first year, I sort of made like 30K profit of it. And it was a short-term thinking. I wasn't really educated. Didn't knew much about property, finance, any of that stuff. Short-term thinking, I decided to sell it. I was in a fixed rate interest at the time. I actually ended up paying 20K break fee to the bank.
This is Property Investory, where we talk to successful property investors, find out more about their stories, mindset, and strategy. I'm Taran Shah, and in this episode, we're talking to Jazz Sidana, an IT professional who was looking to purchase a family home in Melbourne, and instead create a portfolio of 6 properties and is showing no signs of slowing down. As a family man, Sidana tells us about his activities in a busy day of life.
I currently work in IT for a big retail corporation, and I've been with the same company for the last 10 years now. And so I look after a team of developers, so as a development manager over there. Man, the day honestly for me is pretty busy. I mean, my job is basically 9 to 5. The good thing is I don't live that far from work, so it's only 10 minutes walk. And it's a 9 to 5 job. As such, I don't have to be there at 9 or finish at 5. It's flexible hours, but that's the sort of a framework. Outside that, I've got a family with 2 kids, 2 boys. Just that keeps me busy. And my other passion is property and finance. So I spend most of my time reading about the financial news and what's happening in the world of property and investing in general.
Originally born overseas, Sidana completed his master's when he moved to Australia.
I basically am from North India, a city called Ludhiana, and I studied in the local school over there. It was one of the good schools over there, English-speaking school, and my whole family is in the same town, and I'm the only one actually who decided to leave the country. My father was a businessman back there, and I just wasn't. I was a bit of more of a person who likes to experiment stuff and try new things, and I wanna go out and study somewhere outside India, and I happened to pick Australia at the time because few of my friends were here, and just came here for my master's. Basically, I did my bachelor's from my hometown over there, and then decided to do my master's here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a good excuse to say to your parents, Dad, Mum, I'm going overseas to study.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I've got we have 5 siblings, and I'm the youngest one. I've got 4 sisters, and my father made all this effort into sperming a boy, and I decided to leave the country after that.
I wonder what he must have said about that.
I don't think he's very happy with that.
Sidana tells us more about his family in India and his father's business.
He's more or less retired now, but back home, he had a manufacturing unit. He used to manufacture paper and supply it to the local suppliers over there. He actually suffered a fair bit of loss from that in the later years, and decided to shut it down completely. And sisters are married. They're all pretty. They're all pretty wealthy over there. So they're living their life.
With so many occupations and countries to choose from, why IT? Why Australia?
The bachelor's that I did was in IT. I mean, honestly, I didn't have a clue of what I wanted to do, but Dad sort of knew at the time, and he was like, "Get into IT. It's the more upcoming thing." And I was like, "No, I want to do accounting." He sort of forced me into it, and it actually is good that I got into it because I actually really enjoyed doing it all this time. So for the last 10-15 years I've been into the same area, and it's one of the more disruptive technologies out there. So it's been pretty. I've been enjoying that part quite a lot. At the time, I was looking at America, Canada, and Australia, and I said I didn't know many people anywhere. Anyways, I sent all my families back home, and it's just I had 2 or 3 friends over here in Australia, so I was like I knew someone over here at least, if in case I really need some help. that I can ring someone. So that was the reason I picked Australia up at the time, to be honest. But it worked out pretty well. I mean, I've enjoyed this country. I absolutely love it. Melbourne is a great city. I moved to Gold Coast about 7 years ago, but it was too late back for me. So I decided to come back to Melbourne.
After becoming an Australian citizen, Sidana found a steady job in IT and settled down in Melbourne with his wife.
I came to Australia when I was 22 on a student visa, and I was here for 2 years doing my master's in IT. And and from there I applied for my citizenship over here. So I think I was 25 or 26 when I got my citizenship. And then started looking for jobs in IT. So I finally found the company that I was looking for, and been with them for the last 10 years, really. My whole family is back home, still in India, but I'm married to the girl I'm married to. She's a citizen over here as well. So she's been here for the last, she came here before me. I think she's been here for the last 15 years now. And we just met at a call center that I used to work, and sort of it kicked in from there. So I've got two boys, 3 and 5 months old. So so it's I'm a family man now. All the late night hangouts are gone.
The influence to begin property investing came from the desire to own a family home. However, being uneducated in property investing at the time didn't sit well for Sidana.
Actually, I don't think I'm one of those people who gets influenced very quickly. I actually just naturally happened to got into it. I was looking, I used to live in Windsor, which is an inner city area in Melbourne, and I was renting over there, and I was planning to get married, so I started looking for houses, and I couldn't afford anything in that area, so I had to go 45 kilometers out in the outer suburbs towards the southeast. And I bought my first block of land over there to build my own house. And that was where sort of the journey started from. But I sold that block of land within the first year of buying, because I think it was in 2007 when I bought it, and the property market was pretty hot at the time. So within the first year, I sort of made like 30K profit of it. And it was a short-term thinking. I wasn't really educated. Didn't know much about property, finance, any of that stuff. And short-term thinking, I decided to sell it. And I was in a fixed rate interest at the time. I actually ended up paying 20K break fee to the bank.
Oh no! Wow.
So I made a 10K profit, which I was still pretty happy with after all the cost. I'm saying, I made a 10K profit. But in hindsight, if I look back, I mean, if I was educated at the time, I would have never done that. I would have still kept that, because it's 3 times worth the money now.
Prior to finding work in IT and beginning his property investing journey, he undertook several different jobs. This was a challenge, as he was limited to working a certain number of hours per week while on a student visa.
During my student visa, as I was studying, because we were only allowed to work part-time, 20 hours a week kind of thing. So it was hard to find sort of professional jobs at the time. Plus, I didn't have any qualification in hand or experience. So at the time, I used to work in a call center in CBD. And that worked out pretty well for me. That was, I think it was inbound and outbound call center. So that was the job that I used to do. And I also did security for a little while just to pay off my bills kind of thing.
Coming up after the break, we'll delve into Sidana's property investing journey on how he became a property investor.
And then I bought a house in suburb next door, a small house, but on a similar size block, 700 square meter block, which I still hold to date. It's rented out, that was my principal place of residence, and I lived over there for roughly 3 or 4 years before buying a bigger place to live in.
How he grew his property portfolio.
Whole portfolio is roughly about 3.2 to 3.5 mil. And it's in terms of gearing, I'm sort of 60 to 65% geared.
And that's next. I'm Charan Shah, and you're listening to Property Investory. Western Australia is tipped to be the next property hotspot. If you're looking to invest and build in WA, take advantage of the affordable land market and record build times with Plunket Homes. Visit propertyinvestory.com/build to find out why they're WA's most established home builder. With over 150 years of experience, Plunkett Homes helps you develop turnkey homes across WA. To get your fixed price demolition or site works and to maximise profits and minimise time, visit propertyinvestory.com/build. And now back to the show. Having purchased his first property and sold it, Sidana searched to find another home to live in. He located one in close proximity to the first house and then eventually drew equity from that to buy another investment property.
I looked at a few houses first and I was like, I don't really like the floor plan for any of them. And I, to be honest, didn't even knew what I wanted at the time. And I was like, I'm going to build my own. And I bought this block of land with it had view to the mountains and all. So it was a good block, 700 square meter. And yeah, these days it is big. At the time, back 7 years ago, it wasn't really 7 or 8. So especially in the outer suburbs. I bought that block of land thinking that I'm going to put my own house on it. But then, as said, it was a short-term thinking at the time. I was making that 10 grand profit after all the expenses. Like, let's sell it and we'll buy something again. So, because I didn't know much about property at all. So I decided to sell it. And then I bought a house in suburb next door, a small house, but on a similar size block, 700 square meter block, which I still hold to date. It's rented out, that was my principal place of residence, and I lived over there for roughly 3 or 4 years before buying a bigger place to live in. But in the meantime, I did bought another investment property because I had made that equity. Because 2007, 2008 was when the property prices were going up, so I was able to pull equity out once again to buy another one. So that's how sort of it got started after that.
Since the beginning of his investment journey, Sidana's properties have almost doubled in value and has accumulated to 6 properties in his portfolio.
The block that I bought was for 175 and I sold it for, I think it was around 210 at the time. And after all the expenses, I said I made roughly about 10k profit. And then I went to buy my house. That was my principal place of residence at the time. And I bought that for 287 and I still hold it today, and it's doubled in value pretty much. So it's roughly around 580, 570, 580, anywhere between 570 to 600 at the moment. So yeah, so that's done pretty well. So within the first year of buying it, the property prices sort of, again, at the time, prices were going up. So I was able to pull equity out once again. And I bought another one within the same area, which was a corner block, 550 square meters this time, with a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. And I still hold that as well today, and it's rented out. And that was for 307 I bought it for at the time. And today it's probably worth, again, around the similar price, somewhere between 550 to 600. So at this point in time, it's 6 actually. I mean, number doesn't really mean anything. Roughly, the whole portfolio is roughly about 3.2 to 3.5 mil. And it's in terms of gearing, I'm sort of 60 to 65% geared. So I do hold enough equity over there, basically. If I take into consideration the actual text that I get back, it's actually sort of a little bit positively geared at the moment. It will probably leave roughly around 10,000 in my pocket every year, sort of thing.
With many people rent vesting, it's a cost-effective alternative while acquiring wealth through property investing.
I'm renting my own place now, so all the investment properties are obviously rented out, and the place that I'm living in, which is sort of closer to the city and work, I'm renting that place. For me, it has worked out very well because I said I only live within 10 minutes walking distance to work, and I actually used to hold 2 cars, and I actually sold one of them because I didn't need it anymore, and my wife was on maternity leave. So that's straight away a saving of $1,000. And then the other property that was my principal place of residence is now rented out, so that's tax deductible as well. So if I actually truly do the numbers, I end up being better off renting right now than living in my own house. And plus, I'm closer to the city, so if I want to go and watch a match in the stadium, MCG or whatever, or if just hang out in the city with the friends. It's like literally takes me 10 minutes, and Uber these days is pretty cheap, so you can catch that easily to the city. So
Although he had a positive outcome with his property investments overall, he still regrets selling the first property he purchased. He owns that education was the key to unlocking the benefits in his journey.
in all honesty, really, I don't have a worst moment as such. But if in hindsight, if I was to look back, that block of land that I sold was a silly thing that I did at the time. I could have actually put a house on it and rented even that out, and that would have done pretty well. I would have been sitting on roughly a 4 mil portfolio right now with 55% gear or whatever, or 60% gearing. That was sort of the mistake in hindsight. If I look back, that's the mistake that I made. But as such, if there was a worst movement that I had, not really. I mean, once I got started into it, I learned pretty quickly that education was the key to it, which if I look back, if I could have started that even earlier, would have been better for me. But I was new to the country, so there was a lot to learn at the time.
Sidana's aha moment occurred gradually by educating himself about property and the workings of the market.
It's not something of a revolution that happened, but as I kept myself educating by reading magazines or a Financial Review newspaper or Sky Business Channel, all of that, it's sort of an evolution that I had over time where I got to a point where I was like, I can now sort of start even predicting what the next move with the interest rates is going to be and all of that. So like with my portfolio, what I did was when the interest rates were at rock bottom, I pretty much fixed 80% of the portfolio. And since then, the rates have only gone up. So it's really been educating myself all this time and understanding. And now I think I'm fairly comfortable with predicting where after reading all the stuff based on what economists are writing and everything, that I can sort of make informed decisions of what's going to happen next. So that's the best guess kind of thing. So I think it's more of an evolution thing that happened over the time. As such, it wasn't an aha moment. I think it's more important for people to understand that property is important. Obviously, location is important. The kind of property that you buy in the area is important. But what's more important than that is understanding the finance, setting up the structures right, understanding the interest rates. When you're dealing at, if you have got one property, it doesn't really matter that much. But once you've got couple under your belt, that becomes very important, and setting those structures up right is very important if you want to keep growing in that space, essentially.
With this in mind, Sidana's exciting goal is to continue building his property portfolio and attain the financial freedom to be able to do what he likes.
In my head, it was that I wanted to achieve a 10 million portfolio, which from there I can pretty much sort of, I'm not the kind of person who will ever retire. I really do like working, but I want to be in that position where I've got a 10 million worth of portfolio, which is 50% or 40% geared, and it leaves enough in the pocket, and I can spend time on the things that I actually enjoy, which is really helping people in property and finance sort of things, which is I've been doing that a lot with my friends and everything. So it's freeing up my time to do the stuff that I want is the goal, essentially. I don't think I'll ever stop. I think I'll keep always investing. Doesn't matter what the newspapers say. I've stopped reading the newspapers completely now. I think it's important to educate yourself, and I'm not after the money. I'm just after the freedom, so I can get to do what I want, spend time with the family, travel around, all of that.
Inspired by this story and what Sidana is excited about today, we'll keep the conversation going in a future episode on property investory, where we'll talk about how to apply his strategy.
That I can buy the whole block, or heading towards development rather than just buy and hold strategy, which is this base portfolio essentially.
His success habits for property investing.
A lot of reading, to be honest. Whether it's Financial Review, whether it's property magazine, money magazines.
And that's next time on a future episode of Property Investory. Also, I would love to hear from you. If you own property and want to share your story, send me an email to hello@propertyinvestory.com. To spell Property Investory, simply type the words Property Investor with the letter Y. Alternatively, you can open the description of this episode in your player and click on the link to contact me. Thanks for listening.